Evening, everyone. Welcome to the Ferndale City Council meeting for Monday, January 14th, 2019. Please rise as you're able for the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you very much. Marnie, would you call the roll, please?
Councilmember Leaks May. Here. Councilmember Martin.
Here.
Mayor Pro Tem Polika.
Here.
Councilmember Piana.
Here.
And Mayor Coulter.
I'm here, and I goofed up.
What's that?
Well, we have some special visitors with us who, come on up, folks, who were going to help us do that, except that I rushed right into the Pledge of Allegiance.
Habit.
We can do it again.
We can do it again.
Bad habit.
Do it again.
We can do it again. And I know they also have some things they want to share with us. So come on up, guys. All right, you guys did that so well. We're going to do it again because I promised them that they could lead the Pledge of Allegiance, and then I didn't. I apologize, guys. Are you ready? All right, if you would please rise as you're able.
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. And there's a microphone there. I know that they had a... You are the den leader, correct?
I'm the den leader for the Bears, third grade.
Ah, okay.
What we're here for? I'm going to do it? All right. We are here from Pack 1221, Ferndale's Cub Scout Pack. I have two of my Bears with me. I'm the den leader, Lucas Zdenek, and we wanted to publicly invite everyone and the City Council to our Pinewood Derby we're having on February the 9th. It's the same thing if you were ever in Cub Scouts when you were a kid, it's the exact same thing that you remember. We make cars out of little blocks of wood, put wheels on them, decorate them, and then we race them.
Awesome.
And we wanted to give each of the council members their own car.
Oh,
If you guys want to come,
thank you.
cars.
Absolutely.
Where and when?
It is at the Ferndale High School cafeteria, February the 9th. Boys, you can hand out your flyers. There you go.
At what time?
At 2 p.m., correct? Is that what it says on there?
Thank you.
Slow down. 2 p.m., and the race time is at 2:30. Go ahead. Sorry.
You don't know what you're asking for. When I was a kid, I won a lot of awards with these things.
Well, the challenge is yours now. We have an adult race.
All right.
We have siblings that can race. If you guys want more cars, you can contact our scout leader, Robin Galloway. Her husband's here, and this is her son, Jack.
All right.
All the information that you need is on there. Show up. If you don't want to race, just show up and watch. It's a lot of fun. We have a great time. Concessions and all that kind of stuff. 2 p.m. on February the 9th. It's a Saturday. In the cafeteria at the high school.
And if somebody out at home was watching and wanted to join your scout troop, where would they find you?
We have a Facebook page. You can find us on Facebook. You can also, we have an email. I believe it's, do you know what it is? The Pack 1221 at...
I put you on the spot. I'm sorry.
Yeah, I don't have all the... Robin or I? Yeah, Robin Galloway on
Galloway.
Facebook, or you can look for Pack 1221 Ferndale Cub Scouts.
Excellent.
And get more information that way. Enrollment typically starts at the school year, beginning of the school year in September.
Okay.
So this year we've got most of the things already running.
Yep.
But at the beginning of the school year or at the end of the school year, we're going to be doing more recruitment at the schools and at public events.
Excellent.
And
Thank you.
also,
Yes?
let us know when that cake auction is again, okay?
Oh, yeah, we missed that one for this year, but absolutely. In the fall, we usually have that. So.
All right.
Okay.
Thank you so much for having us.
Thank you. Thanks, guys. Thank you for being here. Thanks. All right. I don't think I forgot anything else. So the next item of business would be the approval of the agenda.
Or do we want to add the?
Yeah.
Okay. Actually, I move that we add our city commissioner, Helene Zack, to the presentations.
All right. Is there support?
Support.
All right. Is there discussion on the agenda? Marnie, would you call the roll, please?
Councilmember Leaks May.
Here.
No, yes.
Wait, do we?
Yes.
Councilmember Martin.
Here. Yes, here. All right.
Add the new agenda?
We're moving it to another.
Move it to the next.
Okay.
Councilmember Martin?
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Polika?
Here to say yes.
Councilmember Piana?
Yes.
And Mayor Coulter?
Yes, thank you. The agenda is adopted. Moving on now to the next item of business is call to audience. And this is your opportunity. If you're here with us in the audience and you'd like to address council on any, oops, did I do something wrong?
Point of order, Your Honor. I think we do presentations and then go to the
Oh, my
audience.
goodness. All right, you'd think this was my first council meeting. I'm only starting my 9th year. You'd think I had this down by now. I skipped over the presentations. Foolish me. All right, we do have 3 presentations. Thank you very much. And item A is one of our favorites, and that is the police sergeant promotion and introduction of new officers. And Captain Emmy is here to introduce that, correct?
Yes, thank you, Your Honor.
Thank you, Captain.
It's my pleasure to introduce the 3 newest members of the Ferndale Police Department. Officer Joshua Little, Officer Scott DeWoley, and Officer Michael Zaley. Officer Little attended Ferris State University, where he earned a bachelor's degree in criminal justice. Officer Little graduated from the Wayne County Regional Police Academy just this past December. Officer DeWoley attended Central Michigan University, where he earned a bachelor's degree in criminal justice. Officer DeWoley attended the Detroit Police Academy in 2018 and was in the FTO program at the Detroit Police Department prior to joining our department. Since acquiring Officer DeWoley, we noticed that we needed to call Monahan's towing a little less often. Scott just picks up the smaller cars and moves them wherever he wants. Officer Zaley attended Schoolcraft College, where he earned an associate's degree in criminal justice. Officer Zaley also graduated from the Wayne County Regional Police Academy just this past December. Welcome to the Ferndale Police Department, gentlemen. Thank you.
Welcome to Ferndale. Have great professional careers here and be safe, gentlemen. Thank you.
Thank you.
Next, I would like to introduce Sergeant Evan Toisen. Officer Toisen joined the Ferndale Police Department in 2015. Officer Toisen attended Michigan State University, where he earned a bachelor's degree in criminal justice. After joining our department, Evan proved himself to be a fast learner and exhibited leadership qualities early in his career. Officer Toisen is a member of the Evidence Technician and Field Training Officer programs. The transformation from officer to sergeant is not easy, and many experts believe that the sergeant is the most important position in the chain of command. Sure, lieutenants, captains, and chiefs can come up with great ideas, or at least we think they're good ideas, and create vision for the department, but it's the sergeant who ensures that this vision becomes reality. The chief can give you those stripes and can grant you your authority, but you must earn the respect of the officers under you. Here is some advice that has been given to me over the years on how to earn that respect. First, lead by example. Don't ever ask an officer to do anything you aren't willing to do yourself. You don't always know the answer. You have smart people working for you. Seek their input. Admit your mistakes, because you're going to make plenty of them. This is a serious job with great responsibility, but don't lose your sense of humor, and don't be afraid to laugh at yourself. Don't violate the public trust, and remember to serve the residents and visitors of our community with integrity, professionalism, and honor. Lieutenant Spellman, you can now come forward for the pinning. Congratulations, Sergeant Toizen. Thank you.
Congratulations, Sergeant.
Sergeant, where'd you go to college again? Very good, thank you.
Go ring. Excellent.
Thank you, Your Honor.
Thank you. Appreciate it, Captain. All right. Now, all those in blue, get back to work. All right. Our next presentation is the Holiday Lights Award, and I believe Robin from our Ferndale Beautification Committee is here to present those.
Greetings and Happy New Year.
Happy New Year.
2019 is off to a great start, but the Ferndale Beautification Commission has a little bit of unfinished business, the holiday lights from 2018. The Southeast winner that was selected back in December. Unfortunately, it was selected at a time where all of the council meetings were done for the year, and so we're bringing it up here in January. The owners of this house at 479 West Oak Ridge is Eric and Katie Dillard. They did
Not the
a
address
lovely...
on the screen, by the way.
I'm sorry? Oh, you're right. Absolutely. Let's see.
There.
Nope.
Oak Ridge, that was Oak Ridge, wasn't it?
Well, can you believe it seems to be, is that it? Yeah, that's it. Southeast winner, right? Yes, 316 Ardmore.
So I'm not the only one.
You were not you're
feeling
not
better.
alone, Dave.
I'm feeling better.
I had my papers flipped over. Sean Kelly is actually the owner of this house. And we thought it was very festive in the Southeast quadrant. And actually, it did receive several nominations for its wonderful light display. Now we get over to Eric and Katie's house. And the northwest section on West Oak Ridge. They did a lovely job. The house itself was all white, but then they added pops of color throughout their yard by using colored lights on their various trees. The Southwest winner gave us a little bit of a chuckle, if you can really sort of make out there. We sort of nicknamed it Ho Ho Homer, since Homer Simpson was standing over on the far right-hand side. Great use of all red lights, and we just thought it was really sort of fun coming down Marshall where it dead ends there into Allen Street to see Homer standing there. And over in the northeast section on Horton, 3239 Horton, Larry DiLoretto is the owner of this house. They really had it all lit up, from moving lights to illuminated, animated objects in the yard. So quite festive over there on the northeast side. Our commercial property winner had to be hands down Fern and Dale's Hair Salon. They really lit up Woodward Avenue there for the holidays. And even though I'm not really sure who owns the salon, I will have to say that Roger Haggard and Sons was the company, the construction company, that did the installation of all the lights for them. And they did a really great job. Finally, for those of you who may be interested in having trees planted in on your property along the city streets, this is available now. The deadline is January 31st for you to do that. There is a fee involved, and the city DPW will give you a list of trees that you can choose from for planting. And with that said, I wish to thank you all for allowing me to be here, and we'll see you again probably February. Thanks so much.
Thank you to your committee as well. Great job as always. Appreciate it.
My pleasure.
And now our county commissioner, Helene Zack, is here to tell us about what's happening in Oakland County.
Good evening, everybody, and thank you for adding me to the agenda. It's a pleasure. I just started my 9th term as county commissioner, and it is an honor to be serving you. And it's an interesting new day in Oakland County. For the first time in my 9 terms, I'm the majority party member, And that means that my vote counts more for appointments and other things. For example, we now have 2 new representatives to the Oakland County Parks and Recreation Committee that look like the rest of the county. They're more diverse, and they live in South Oakland County. So when we have more representation on the Parks Board, maybe we'll be making better decisions that we want to have trails and things that we value on this end of town versus North Oakland County. We also have our first female road commission appointee who has tremendous credentials. She's an operating engineer. And so for my first time in 9 years, I voted to appoint this particular road commissioner. So I think that, her expertise coming from a different place is going to be really positive for our county. As your county commissioner, I have the honor of chairing the finance committee. Congratulations. And it's a big responsibility. Along with that, I serve now on the drain board, the retirement board, and some other appointments as finance chair. I also will be back on SEMCOG promoting regional cooperation, voting for some of the wonderful grants that we've gotten here, creative tip things. And I also am now chairing the Citizens Advisory County Committee for the Community Home and Improvement Department. And this is the organization where we have improvement loans, housing counseling, and I look forward to shaking that up as well. I had my meeting with the director. We're going to do some active subcommittees to study some issues such as affordable housing. How can we do rental assistance, do some things differently? As well as we're using this opportunity to reorganize how the county commissioners operate, the legislative branch. We're strengthening our authority. We have renamed committees to reflect things that we do, such as we have a committee called Healthy Community and Environment. We all care about healthy communities and the environment. And so now we have a committee named that. And streamlining operations so that different business goes through our structure faster, simpler, and more efficiently. So, any questions?
Questions of Commissioner Zack?
Thank
No,
you.
just grateful you're there. Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you. Grateful
Thank
to
you.
represent Ferndale.
Thanks for stopping by as
Thanks.
always. Thank you, Commissioner. All right. Now is call the audience, and this is your opportunity if you're here in the audience and would like to address council on any issue that's not on the agenda, because you'll get an opportunity to speak to that when we get to that portion of the agenda. But if you'd like to come on up and give us your name, and 3 minutes is yours to speak on whatever you would like. Good evening.
Hello.
Good.
Looks like there's no one in line, so I'll just get up here.
Yours.
My name is Kat Latosh, and I'm a longtime Ferndale resident, and I serve on the Ferndale Inclusion Network. And I'm here today to tell you a little bit about the Ferndale Inclusion Network, and also invite you and everyone here to our next Ferndale Inclusion Network meeting. So the Ferndale Inclusion Network is a project of Citizens for a Fair Ferndale, which has been around for quite a few years now. FIN, as we call it for short, is a network of people and groups in Ferndale that are intent on building a more diverse and inclusive community. We meet quarterly and are open to the public, and we have our next meeting coming up on Wednesday, January 30th at the Ferndale Public Library. Also, we have another member of Ferndale Inclusion Network in the room tonight on the Planning Committee, and that's Sergeant Baron Brown. Our last conversation, we have two things that we do. One is hosting these quarterly community conversations, and they're an opportunity for people to talk about a compelling and current issue related to inclusion and Ferndale. So, for example, our last conversation took place about 3 months ago, and the topic was Think Before You Dial, a conversation about living while black. We all know that there have been a lot of racial profiling calls to law enforcement, so it was an opportunity to talk about that as something that happens, and also to look at ourselves and our own community about how we observe this happening and what kinds of things that we can do as community members to interrupt that and prevent that from happening. Out of that conversation, there was a lot of, people identified a lot of personal stories, and one of the things that came up was racially coded language that people see and hear and read about being used in various different public forums, like the Ferndale Facebook forum, which is always lively. But sometimes racially coded language comes up, and sometimes it also comes up around housing and low-income individuals. And so our next topic, there was so much energy around that particular topic that our next meeting on January 30th is not in my Ferndale backyard. Flyer? A discussion on coded language in housing, schools, and neighborhoods in Ferndale. Again, our focus is on current topics that are relevant with a very local focus. So identifying what's happening in Ferndale and what can we do to be proactive. I will leave a bunch of flyers in the back of the room. If you're interested, please do pick one up, and everyone is invited to attend. Thank you.
Thanks, Kat, and thanks for the great work you guys are doing. Is there anyone else that would like to address council? Barry?
Good evening, City Council. I know I'm not on your presentation agenda, but I promise I will be at your next meeting.
Okay.
I just had two quick things. One, as you know, the DDA has been working on some promotions and things like that with the construction of the DOT coming online in a couple of weeks to promote our businesses. I'm going to have some handouts for you at your next meeting on the 28th that talks about each of the monthly promotions happening throughout the year and kind of what the strategy is for that. But the reason I bring it up right now is because one of those things we're doing is called Wednesday walks, and we meet at 5:30 and we're taking walks up and down 9 Mile and Woodward and kind of allowing people the chance, whoever wants to lead that walk, to volunteer to do it, to talk about whatever they'd like to talk about on it, their thoughts and memories of Ferndale, the businesses, whatever it may be. We're engaging business owners, yourselves, DDA board members, and various others to be leaders of some of those walks. So if you're interested doing that at some point in time, please do let the DDA know. The other thing that I wanted to bring to your attention, you have a letter in front of you that I placed there. That is a letter that's being hand-delivered by some of our Business Development Committee volunteers to the businesses around downtown. It is with regards to our strategic planning session coming up on Wednesday, January 23rd. It will be at 6 p.m. at the Ferndale Library. That will be the time when we're going to have a dinner served if you're interested in coming early, or the presentation starts at 6:30. So take your pick. This year we're focusing on capital improvement projects specifically. I know in the past we've worked on putting our strategic plan together, so we're kind of shifting gears this time. And it's going to be a little bit different format where we're going to have some opportunity for people to get a little more conversation in. We're having some breakout groups to discuss things. So please join us if you're able to do that. And if you're a business owner or resident listening and you're interested, please do join us as well. Thank you.
Look forward to it. Thank you, Barry.
Through the chair, if I may, Barry, can I make a suggestion? And I'd be happy to help facilitate this. But I'm going to talk more during my time at the end of the meeting. But on one of those Wednesday walks, can we organize that, or with the use of wheelchairs and other walking assistance, so we can take a good look at the accessibility of the downtown? And we've used to do this here a while, where we just go up and down 9 Mile and people would go in wheelchairs and firsthand experience some of the challenges that we've got. I mean, I think we have a good eye towards accessibility, but recent experience has taught me that we've got some opportunities too. So put that on your agenda if you don't mind, and I'd be happy to work with you to put that together.
Sure.
Thanks.
Absolutely. Thank you.
Thank you. Good evening.
Well, good evening, Mayor Coulter. It's good to see you again.
Good to see you.
Good evening, Council. My name is Karen Rachel. I am a former resident of Ferndale. First and foremost, I'd like to thank everyone for banning the exotic animals and the wildlife from animal-related entertainment. However, I would like to plead the case on behalf of the rest of the animals, especially that you would reconsider and ban the petting zoos. I have a statement here from the Huron Valley Humane Society, and I will read this as quickly as possible because I'd like to incorporate my own comments in my involvement with working with rescue rabbits and all the stress they endure and all the suffering they endure with petting zoos, because people really don't understand all of the neglect that is going on. So here is the Huron Valley Humane Society statement. Petting zoos are sold as learning experiences for children, but instead they are artificial environments designed simply for entertainment. Animals used in entertainment suffer from abuse and neglect, deprived of the care they require to meet their social, behavioral, and physical needs. They're kept in unnatural housing. They're not fed a proper diet and suffer from fear, stress, and boredom during transport and living in captivity in overcrowded conditions. There's no standards nor regulatory oversight for petting zoos. Basic animal welfare standards are not followed related to veterinary care, diet, housing, and expression of natural behaviors. Animals are not properly protected from the elements. They're often forced to sit all day long in the sun during hot summer months and may not receive adequate water. And I can testify, I've seen that one too many times. 2 ounces of water is grossly inadequate for rabbits in sweltering, hot, humid conditions and forced to sit in the sun with no shade. Frequently, petting zoos breed or buy baby animals, so there's always an ample supply of babies to entertain customers, but those young animals are usually taken from their mothers too soon. They're not provided with proper care, handling, and socialization, and must endure the stress of being transported from place to place. And I will add in this real quick. When those babies become adults, they're sold to slaughter, and the stationary petting zoos will tell you that if you ask. Yep, goes to that restaurant, that restaurant, that restaurant, that restaurant. It's all about profit and gain. That's my comment, not Huron Valley's. Like the adult animals, they have no refuge from the stresses of constant human interaction. Petting zoos are also known to be a health risk to humans, especially children and pregnant women, being a source of the spread of zoonotic diseases. The petting zoos are bad for animals and for people, and because of the lack of regulation, they require monitoring and enforcement of animal cruelty laws by local animal control or other enforcement agencies. And this is from Tanya Hilgendorf. She is the president and CEO of Huron Valley Humane Society. That is their statement. Now, as a volunteer with a rescue rabbit organization, I'm one of the volunteers responsible for socializing the rabbits, and I can tell you, these rabbits come from all over the state of Michigan. They have come from cruelty confiscations. They have come from hoarders. They have been abandoned in parks, along busy intersections, dumped in the woods, dumped wherever. They're treated like they're disposable. They are not disposable. All of these animals that are used in petting zoos are jammed into these overcrowded trailers. They're trucked all over the state of Michigan. They're stuck in rush hour traffic. But everyone sitting here on council has the opportunity to turn on the air conditioning if the weather is too hot and too humid. The animals don't have that. They do not have air conditioning. They're forced to stand in manure, feces, same thing, and urine for all that travel. Rarely are they properly secured. There's no animal control available to check the animals in when they bring them onto the grounds. There's supposed to be a veterinarian on call per MDARD requirements. That's not the case. So what winds up happening is you have all this neglect. Now, I'd like for you to think about...
If you could.
I'm sorry?
You're at 4 minutes, so if you could just... Yeah.
Just put yourself in the place of the animals. Do you want somebody constantly poking you in the face, the side, the butt, screaming at you, and you're exposed to this chaotic environment? If you don't think that's comfortable for your liking, think of how much worse it is for the animals. I am available for further questions after the meeting. I'm more than happy to share more information with you. Thank you for letting me go over. I really appreciate your time. Thank you.
Thanks for being here.
You're welcome.
All right. Anyone else would like to address council this evening? Anyone else? All right. If not, we will close call to audience, and we'll move to the next agenda item, which is a public hearing, and a public hearing on the rezoning application for 648 through 668 East 9 Mile Road. Justin, you're going to introduce that item? Excellent.
Good evening. I'll be brief for this portion. The Planning Commission and City received an application for rezoning for 648, 668 East 9 Mile Road by the property owner, Bob Harris, or Paris, excuse me. The proposal is to rezone the site from M1, which is limited industrial, to C2 general commercial. This site is just directly west of the railroad tracks on East 9 Mile on the south side of the street. When staff reviewed the request, the rezoning aligned with the future land use map from the master plan adopted a couple of years ago. So the Planning Commission held a public hearing last month, and this seemed to meet all the qualifications the Planning Commission was looking for, and also the requirements of the rezoning ordinance. At this time, right now, the site, or the building, is occupied by Agora Arts. That someone, I think, at the Planning Commission asked if that use would continue to be permitted. Yes, it would. And this C2 also would allow for some of the commercially zoned, or commercial uses that are nearby, in the Search Optics campus, and the strip center across the street as well.
Okay, with that introduction, this is a public hearing, so I will open up the hearing to the public, and if there's anyone here from the public that would like to address council on this rezoning application, this would be your opportunity to do so. All right, nope. All right, we'll close the public hearing, and then I'll open it up to council for questions or comments that you may have. Does council have questions or comments on this item?
No, just a comment that this was vetted through the Planning Commission and found support there.
Yeah.
It's really a minor adjustment for the zoning designation here.
Correct.
It still fits the context of the area.
Correct. And this is one of the areas that was recommended in the master plan to be looked at to be rezoned. Planning Commission's planning on tackling that this year anyway, but we didn't want to hold up the property owner.
Yes.
It was something that we were going to move forward with.
So I'd like to move that the Ferndale City Council approve the rezoning application to rezone the parcel from M1 Limited Industrial to C2 General Commercial with the following findings as listed in the packet after a public hearing that was held, set, and published for this date and place.
Support.
Moved by Martin and supported by Piana. Now, any final comments or questions? Maybe I'll just use this opportunity to recognize the chair of our planning commission. Thank you for your, Kate Baker, thank you for your work on this and so many other projects that you guys diligently review. Thank you. Madam Clerk?
That's an understatement. She really, the Planning Commission the last 2 years has just been off the hook, and Chair Baker has just done an absolutely wonderful job.
Amen.
But you can't underestimate the work that goes into that group and staff as well. I mean, it's no joke. So.
Did you just say off the hook?
It is off the hook, yeah.
Yep, agreed.
It's a technical term.
Martin, would you call the roll, please?
You can get on.
Councilmember Martin.
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Polika.
Yes.
Councilmember Piana.
Yes.
Councilmember Leaks May.
Yes.
And Mayor Coulter.
Yes, thank you. That rezoning is adopted. Thanks, Justin. Thank you. Next item of business is the consent agenda. Consent agenda items are those that council considers routine and we enact in one motion unless council pulls something from the consent agenda. So let me read the consent agenda items now. Item A is the approval of the regular meeting minutes of November 26, 2018 and December 17, 2018 is submitted by the city clerk. Item B is a resolution recognizing January 22nd, 2019 as the National Day of Racial Healing. Item C is the resolution honoring retiring Police Sergeant Daniel Simon. Item D is the approval to confirm reappointments to city boards and commissions as submitted by our city clerk. Item E is the approval of the purchase of 2 eco-counter tube bicycling counters in the amount of $10,950 charged to the capital improvement account noted in the packet. Item F is the approval of skate park contract for design build between Evergreen Skate Parks and the city of Ferndale as submitted by our Parks and Rec Director. Item G is the approval of the payment for the 2018 Oakway dues in the amount of $5,000 to be charged to the fire department account as noted. Item H is the approval of the 39-month printer lease agreement and maintenance service agreement with Toshiba Business Solutions in the amount not to exceed $23,000 annually to be withdrawn from the account noted in the packet, and authorization for the city manager's office to execute the contract. Item I is the approval of the quote from Rush Mechanical to perform the electrical work for the West Troy compactor relocation for $4,965, expense to be charged to the sanitation fund repair and maintenance account as noted. Item J is the approval of the purchase of RTA fleet management software training for $4,200, expense to be charged to the general fund public service department training education account as noted. Item K is the approval of the purchase of the water main saw from Core and Main for $2,629 from the Water Fund Repair and Maintenance account as noted. Item L is the approval of the financing of $281,574 for the purchase of the 2019 Horton ambulance for 5 years at an interest rate of 3.1907%. through Comerica Bank with a master equipment lease purchase agreement charged to the capital outlay vehicle account as noted. And finally, approval of the bills and payroll is submitted by the city manager's office and subject to review by the Council of Finance Committee. What is council's pleasure on the consent agenda this evening?
Just a comment, if I can, through the chair. On item H, the 39-month printer lease, that seems like a lot of money for printers, but I do want to point out that staff took that out to bid, and that was the lowest bid available, so it wasn't just I appreciate you guys including that in the packet. So.
And I have two comments. One is on item E. I'm very thankful that finally we're starting to be able to count our pedestrian and bicycle usage of our sidewalks, and so that we'll be able to demonstrate increase or decrease in certain areas that would indicate future investment needs to make streets more accessible for everyone, including Dan's focus on, rightly so, on accessibility. And then on item B, I would like to read a proclamation. On October, the Michigan Department of Civil Rights created a new group called the Council on Local Government and Education for Equity and Inclusion. As the board president of the Michigan Municipal League, I was automatically appointed to this council, and I'm very excited to be representing the city of Ferndale and in cities across the state here. But I thought it was very appropriate on the timing of this request for cities to pass a proclamation in support of the National Day of Racial Healing, which is part of the W.K. Kellogg Foundation's Truth, Racial Healing, and Transformation. And this is a day after Martin Luther King Day to recognize the National Day of the National Day of Racial Healing for January 22nd, and ask council to support the mayoral proclamation. And so the National Day of Racial Healing is includes a wide range of events and discussions and activities and groups brought together by the civic community and government and private organizations that will focus on healing the wounds created by conscious and unconscious bias, racial, ethnic, and religious. And I found this fairly appropriate because over the holidays, or right before the holidays, it made the news, our community had been flyered with some racial material that we do not tolerate in our community, and our police department is continuing to work on how that was, or who was doing that. And so in support of this ongoing council's ongoing support of inclusion and equity, I want to read the proclamation, and I'm very honored that this community is going to be one of the first to pass it. So let me read it. And we have all witnessed racial divisiveness rising in Americans' urban, rural, and suburban and tribal communities today that threatens the very core of this great country's united front. And just like those who came before us, it is our duty to protect the children of this country and maintain communities in which they may all be given the opportunity to succeed. And we understand and recognize that there is a racial divide in our country, and we must all work earnestly to heal the wounds created by racial, ethnic, and religious bias and build an equitable and just society so that all children can thrive. Children have the right to be provided every opportunity to learn, grow, and thrive in nurturing environments that don't violate their safety, dignity, and humanity. And every single person has the capability to make a simple change within him or herself that can have a profound effect on the entire society. If we all dedicate ourselves to the principles of truth, racial healing, and transformation, we can all bring about the necessary changes in thinking and behavior that will propel this great country forward as a united force where racial biases will become a thing of the past. Racial healing is a vital and crucial commitment to the education, social, mental, and overall well-being of our children. And the City of Ferndale, in conjunction with others throughout the United States of America, acknowledges January 22nd as the National Day of Racial Healing and urges all citizens to promote racial healing and transformation in the ways that are best suited for them individually and as a means to working together to ensure the best quality of life for every child. Now, therefore, Mayor Coulter do hereby proclaim the Ferndale honors and recognizes January 22nd as National Day of Racial Healing.
Excellent. And one last item I would like to read is the proclamation honoring Police Sergeant Daniel Simon. Mayor Dave Coulter, on behalf of the Ferndale City Council, extends the city's appreciation to Police Sergeant Daniel Simon upon his retirement from the Ferndale Police Department. Sergeant Simon began his law enforcement career on October 28, 1993, upon joining the Ferndale Police Department, and was a pace setter for 25 years. Dan's work ethic and never give up attitude earned him the nickname Bulldog early in his career. After serving 5 years in the Patrol Division, he was assigned to the Crime Suppression Task Force for a year and a half. He returned to the Patrol Division in January of 2000, where he faithfully served the citizens of Ferndale for the next 5.5 years as a patrol officer until he was promoted to sergeant in June of 2005. As sergeant, Dan fortified his reputation as a hard worker, not only focusing on keeping the department's equipment maintained, its officers well-trained, and on supervising the members of his shift. Sergeant Simon was such a hard worker that few of his fellow officers can remember ever seeing him stop to eat a meal while on duty, although he was widely known for being able to sleep at any time and in any place. Dan is a Royal Oak Dundero High School and Eastern Michigan University grad, as well as a graduate of Eastern Michigan University School of Police Staff and Command. Sergeant Simon represented the department and the citizens of Ferndale in many different capacities, including being deeply involved in the in-service training programs. Dan served as a firearms trainer, defensive tactics trainer, department armorer, department range master, field training officer, evidence technician, and as a SWAT team member and deputy commander from '97 until his retirement from the team in 2016. Additionally, he was the recipient of many awards and accolades, not only from the Ferndale Police Department, but from police departments in Detroit, Troy, Beverly Hills, Auburn Hills, Oak Park, and the Michigan State Police, as well as the offices of the Oakland County Sheriff and Oakland County Prosecutor. Sergeant Simon is a two-time recipient of the Ferndale Police Officer of the Year, being honored in 1997 and again 20 years later in 2017. Dan and his wife Nikki have resided in Ferndale for more than 20 years, where they proudly raised their two boys, Justin and Tyler. An avid sportsman, Dan looks forward to spending time hunting and fishing in Michigan's great outdoors. It's my pleasure on behalf of the council to extend our congratulations to Sergeant Daniel Simon on the occasion of his retirement. He's a credit to this community, and it is with heartfelt appreciation that we celebrate his achievement. Thank you. Is there a motion on the consent agenda?
I move we accept the consent agenda as presented.
Support. Moved by Martin and supported by Leaks May. Any further discussion? Any comments from anyone here? All right, Marty, would you call the roll, please?
Mayor Pro Tem Polika?
Yes.
Councilmember Piana?
Yes.
Councilmember Leaks May?
Yes.
Councilmember Martin?
Yes.
And Mayor Coulter?
Yes, thank you. The consent agenda is adopted. Item A is the consideration of an exclusive negotiating rights agreement with Baker College. And Jordan, you're going to introduce that item.
Yes, Your Honor, thank you. Well, good evening, Council. I'm going to pull some documents up here as long as Murphy's Law did not fail. So, Mayor, as you said, I'm here to introduce the item, the Exclusive Negotiating Rights Agreement, or ENRA for short, between Baker College and Aquest Realty. So you saw the memo and the ENRA itself in your packet. I prepared a few slides to just give an overview both to your body as well as the folks in the audience and the folks at home trying to follow along with this project. So we also have folks on hand from Baker College who are here to speak. The president, CEO, and a representative from Aquest Realty are also here. They're going to tell their story about what inspired them to approach us about considering putting their home in Ferndale. But to back up, just to kind of talk to you about what the opportunity is before you today. So Baker did approach the city of Ferndale about creating an urban campus here in the heart of our downtown. What is up for discussion and consideration tonight is an agreement which would allow the formal consideration of that opportunity, essentially an extended due diligence period where the properties that Baker and Aquest have come to ask to purchase from the city would be essentially, we would take no other offers on those properties during this period, whereby we would explore key community concerns. So to that point, I'm a millennial. I'm supposed to know how to do this. Sorry. There we go. So the ENRA would allow for the exploration of these key community concerns and opportunities prior to any sort of formal approval or commitment. So again, this is about the beginning of a journey, about a due diligence period. So key community concerns, 3 buckets come to mind. Obviously, this is not meant to be an exclusive list, but these are sort of the ones that kind of rise to the top of any project that might consider coming to our community. So parking and mobility, community impact, and what we in the CED department would call Ferndale Fit. So on the parking and mobility side, you know, the project's got to meet its own parking needs, just like any other development. It's got to be sensitive to the fact that there's a lot of development going on downtown and in the city in general. So it can't reduce existing public parking capacity during or after construction, and it's got to consider current and future mobility needs. So it can't just be about what we have today. It's got to be looking to the future. Community impact. So this is an opportunity where you have a major anchor institution that wants to locate in our community. So it's got to result in some meaningful commitments and partnerships on public safety, education, and more. All those sort of things that an anchor institution would get involved in any other community where they come and they locate. And this idea of Ferndale Fit. So obviously this is a community that is very intentional about its design, about its future, and where it wants to go and what it wants to be. So this project must reflect that. It must reflect a unique urban environment that we have here, including street level activation, walkability, public and green spaces, and promotion of small business and sustainable design. So those, among other things, are what would make that a Ferndale Fit. And so Baker, in preliminary conversations and exploring what it would look like to purchase property from the city, has committed to working with us in good faith as part of a due diligence period, if council so chooses to enter into one, toward these and many other community concerns through a very public process. And to that point, I'll come back to that slide in a moment. Not the only one. Apparently, I'm joining the theme of getting some things out of order tonight. But a potential timeline. So again, this is the beginning of a journey here. So what you would look like in this potential timeline, if council decided to enter into this ENRA, you would have a period of roughly tomorrow to the beginning and end of April to go through that due diligence period. And so what would happen again, the properties, which I'm going to go back to that slide in a moment, we would entertain no other formal offers or offers of any kind on that property until this due diligence period was extinguished. And during that time, you would have community engagement, you would have site plans and traffic studies, the selection of a site, the determination of parking mitigation strategies, community engagement again, planning commission, and then the development of what's called a development agreement and a community benefits agreement. So those 2 documents would be sort of the culmination of that process. And assuming all of those things were met, site plan approval was achieved, et cetera, in the month of April, these documents, which again would be available for public review and comment, would be presented to City Council for formal consideration. You would be sort of the last stop on that journey to provide formal approvals before anything could go forward. And if Council were to find those things satisfactory, the public process was satisfied, the community had been heard, and all those different benchmarks had been hit, this would become just like any other project. It would have permits and construction. So what you would be looking at is a timeline of essentially January 15th through summer 2019, where construction would begin, and the idea would be construction would complete in summer of 2020. So again, that's not meant to get ahead of ourselves, obviously the first step in a journey, but just to give folks a sense of what this journey might look like. And so taking a step back into what would happen, what would be the end product. So the project proposed in front of us is twofold. One, it is an urban college campus with classrooms, staff space, community rooms, street level activation, a traditional college campus building. additionally would be a mixed-use parking deck. So that would be parking to house not only the development itself, like to meet the parking needs required of such a building, but also replacing public parking and adding for growth. So similar conversations to what we had for the development on Troy, not just meeting today's needs, but also the future. So what you see here on this slide is part of what would be discussed and determined as a course of the NRA. Well, in fact, it would be one of the first things nailed down within the first 30 days, is picking a site. Because obviously navigating 3 options is a lot more complicated than 1, and 1 is complicated enough. However, what you'd be looking at is, if you look at the * red hot chili pepper symbol, you would see that is where the college campus is proposed, right there at 9 Mile and Bermuda. So what that would involve is the former church / item that was going to be North Star Development. For those that follow our Planning Commission meetings closely, that was going to be another mixed-use development, but that property has been sold to Baker and Aquest Realty for this process. So one of the properties under consideration would be City Lot 13, affectionately known as the Como's Lot. So that would be where the college campus would go in any of the following scenarios. Excuse me. And so the mixed-use deck would go in one of the properties marked A, B, and C on that map. So Baker College and Aquest have been having conversations with Ferndale property owners in this area, and you can see that teal / turquoise area marked A, roughly from the alley to Bermuda, would constitute the mixed-use deck in that scenario. Scenario B, which has, if you notice that dotted line, there's sort of 2 ways scenario B could go, where 1, they could fit the entire deck on the currently private-owned lot. But if we wanted to have a stronger urban design, perhaps a shorter building, a little more emphasis on street level, urban and green space, the opportunity for them to take a portion of the East Breckenridge lot would exist. The third scenario is the City Hall parking lot, and I'll emphasize parking lot, not the building. The parking lot between us and the library would be the other option, where the mixed-use deck would be located. And one interesting fact about option C is, for those that follow the parking steering committee closely, you may remember that that was the second preferred alternative to the current lot that was chosen at Troy and Allen for the development on Troy. So that lot has been studied already extensively, so that is one option there. So again, part of this very public process with key milestones, public meetings, public input would help determine which location would be set. And so a steering committee would be formed upon the signing of the NRA, which would meet within the first 30 days to react to what staff and representatives from the Planning Commission and representatives from the development team have been working on to prepare this for public consideration. Essentially what staff has been working on very closely, excuse me, is to provide initial vetting to make sure that anything that does move forward, if an NRA is signed, meets the bare minimum of public scrutiny in terms of city ordinance, master plan alignment, and other considerations before it can even move forward for public consideration. So that's essentially where you're at here. And if you look in your memo, which I will pull up, pardon me. So if you look in the memo, you can see again, kind of alludes to the future steps here in terms of the public process that would govern this process, and obviously marked by key milestones. Every 30 days, excuse me, there's some tangible accountability and things that must be achieved to ensure that good faith progress is being made, and so the city's time and resources aren't being wasted on this process. So that's generally what the NRA would look like. I will obviously take any questions from council or through public comment, but I did want to offer up an opportunity for Baker to tell a little bit of their story about why they approached Ferndale, if council deems that appropriate at this time.
That would be appropriate, thank you.
Sure.
Appreciate that.
Mm-hmm. Thanks, George.
Good evening.
Good evening. My name is Bart Dagan. I'm the president of Baker College. I'll just keep it short and give you a high-level overview of where we are and how we got to this point. As the college started a long-term strategic planning process about three years ago, the decision that we made as part of that process is to consolidate our metro campuses in the Metro Detroit area now into one location. So for probably about the last 2 years, we've been going through a lot of research into various areas and doing our due diligence. And Ferndale ended at the top of the list. So then we began looking for potential property and began from that point. We believe that the city of Ferndale has a lot to offer for college students. It has a lot of the things that they want from a walkable community, the services, the bikeable community, all the things that make your city great, we believe is what students demand, and we want to get a campus going in this area. We are hopeful that the council will be willing to enter into discussions, and we've been extremely impressed with Jordan and the entire city staff in our meetings with them. They've been extremely candid with us and helping us move forward and very responsive in all that they've done. So we've really appreciated their help and their input to this point. So I say thank you to you guys at this time. I'd answer any questions if you have any, but that's our high-level overview.
Excellent, thank you. So I think maybe what we'll do then, and I appreciate that, Mr. President, is there anyone from the public? We'll start with the public before we move to council questions and comments. Is there anyone from the public that would like to address council on this item? Yes, please, come on up. Yeah. Just give us your name, and 3 minutes is yours.
Oh, 3 full minutes, okay. I don't think I'll need it. So, hello, my name is Scott Davis. I've been a resident of Ferndale since 2010. I moved to this, thank you. So this are my neighbors just like everyone else here. First time speaking in front, so. I actually work at a community college as well, Schoolcraft College over in Livonia. I've worked there 4 years. Before that, I did K-12 teaching. One of the schools I taught at was the Digital Learning Center, which was in Ferndale.
Yeah.
Shuttered, and then that became what was Taft. And then, excuse me, so I'm kind of getting a little cold and a little bit nervous too. So.
Oh, you're doing great.
Thank you. So anyway, we know what happened with the Taft site, and that's being redeveloped. I just wanted to come out and say I was support for the initial idea of allowing Baker to move to Ferndale. I think there's many benefits. Obviously, there's issues that need to be mitigated, but just public forums and stuff speaking, I know people are on both sides, so I just wanted to come out and say back my support for this.
Yeah.
I know colleges are struggling enrollment-wise, and so they're closing and consolidating actually presents a kind of a new opportunity to kind of create a different kind of campus that is more technology-focused, and I think Ferndale could be on the cutting edge of that as well. So that's all I have to say.
I appreciate it. Thanks. Thanks for coming up. Anyone else from the public that would like to address council on this item? All right. Oh, yeah, come on up. Yeah.
Hello, good evening. My name's Dana Zarowski. I live at 2932 Inman. I've been a Ferndale resident since '03, and before that, I worked at Baker College from 2000 until 2008 in a full-time, part-time, and adjunct faculty capacity. Mm-hmm. And so when I saw this in the local news, I was kind of surprised because I was at Clinton Township when it was growing and building, and then they put the huge building on Gratiot. And at that same time, they also implemented the Allen Park campus, which, if you've ever driven across 94, is an enormous building as well. So my concerns, it sounds like Jordan and the whole due diligence process is starting tomorrow with you guys.
Yeah.
Ferndale doesn't have a lot of space to grow. We don't have a big Gratiot Avenue. We don't have an I-94. We don't have a lot of space. So I'm just concerned with the growth aspect, the shuttering aspect of the larger, the flagship campuses. And then, as Jordan had mentioned, the walkability, the parking. If you've ever been on Washington Avenue in Royal Oak when OCC let out or was getting in, I trust that you guys will do what you need to do, but those are just some concerns I had, both from a Baker employee and a Ferndale resident. Yeah. So,
no, thank you. Thanks. Appreciate you expressing them. Anyone else? All right, now council's opportunity to ask questions or comments of Jordan or.
If I'm.
Yeah.
Oh, if I may.
Sure, please.
I always like to start off of explaining the NRA, or the Negotiating Rights Agreement, and I always say that this is a dating experiment and not a marriage. This allows the city to explore what's possible and will it meet the community needs? And at the end of the due diligence process would be a development agreement, and that's when the marriage happens. And so the due diligence period of hearing from the community is really, really critical to help inform and guide what would make this development successful, not only for Baker College, but also for the city. And one thing that I'm being focused on, which I've already expressed, is good urban design. When you take a suburban school footprint that is designed for a commuter-focused area, and one of the goal is to attract talent, and our location in our downtown is part of attracting a walkable community and talent, is making sure that the school transforms from a drivable urban suburban school to an urban accessible school in a community that values mobility and walkability. And so for me, this process, I'll be paying attention to, as well as I know a lot of others, is the design and how it fits within our community. Not only the pedestrian and access focus and cars. When you build space for more cars, you get more traffic. It's just a given. And so how do we manage that as part of mutual beneficial outcomes is something that we'll be taking a look at.
Others, Councilman Martin.
Sure, I'd add my comments to Councilwoman Piana's thoughts. I am excited about this conversation and this exploration, whatever the outcome. I think it's a good chance to talk to a potential partner, as well as when we go through these, we always get to reflect again on the character of our city and what we want it to be and moving forward. In the conversations I've had thus far, I'm really appreciative of Baker's approach and openness and willingness to have those conversations, even the tough ones, and work with us. And so there's a lot to cover in the next 90 days, but I think we're starting from a really good place to get to the destination that we need to get to, one way or another, but have the conversation and cover it. So I really do appreciate that. As you might imagine, not that Facebook runs the world, but the forums have been a little active on this topic since the press released. And as part of the intent of information clearing, if there's just one point to clarify, because there seems to be a lot of information and misinformation out there, can you clarify your status for us? Are you a profit? Are you not profit? Are you public? Are you private? What are you? I mean, I know the answer, but I want to make sure we get it out.
Baker College is a private, not-for-profit institution of higher education. We offer degrees from doctorate degrees, master's degrees, bachelor degrees, and associate degrees. We have approximately 10,000 students across the state of Michigan, and we've been offering higher education since 1911. Okay, so
that's helpful. Thank you. I just, on a first blush, that seems to be a point of confusion in some of the public comments. So I'd like to clear that up quickly.
I hear that a lot.
I'm sure. I'm sure.
I do have a...
Go ahead.
Of course, Councilwoman Leach-May.
So, I'm excited about the conversations, first of all, because I think it's going to be an opportunity for students that maybe don't want to go so far away. We have a vigorous and robust school system here, and I would like to see maybe when you guys have those community conversations, maybe you include some of the seniors that will be in the school that will be graduating this year, or the juniors who might think it might opt for this to be a possibility. My question for you is that I'd like to know, and it's really important to me as a parent and as a community member, what does community impact look like to you? What sort of steps are you going to take to involve this community in this decision?
As far as what does community involvement look like to us, it ranges depending on the community that we're in and the needs of that community. Currently, we're in 9 different communities, and they're all different. So we have a lot of partnerships and a lot of back and forth in working with the various communities that we're in. We work closely, whether it's with city council or the township or the local areas. If I could provide a list of areas in the communities that we have where we've added development and other things that are non-college oriented in situations where it's right. So that's one aspect of it. But it really depends. What does the community's need? And we have to get in and we have to communicate with you and the council and the public and find out what are those needs. And in working with Jordan so far, just on the design space, and he's been helping us along the way in talking about what we need to do as far as getting public involvement as we work, if council agrees tonight, if we work toward design development and so forth, getting steering committees together to help us inform what that needs to look like and what is a good aspect from their perspective. Did that answer your question?
It did, and I just want to state that I can tell you kind of what this community is like. It's very involved, and they're going to have a lot to say, so I encourage you to be open and kind of listen to some of their ideas, whereas I know you generally have your plan, but just take into consideration what the community has to say.
Yeah, we do, we will. We also, just to add on in the sense that a couple of the communities that we exist in are extremely small. When you think about Cadillac, Michigan and Owasso, Michigan, those are very small communities, and the impact that we have we're anchor institutions for sure in those communities. So we understand that there will be a lot of input, and we expect that and we want that.
I have comments.
Go ahead. I have additional, but I want you to be able to speak first.
Okay. So over the past several months, I've had the pleasure to interact with President Daig, Ms. Spicer, and Mr. Ong, along with city staff to identify and discuss opportunities of Baker's potential move to Ferndale. And at every turn, the Baker team has been more than gracious in allowing the Ferndale team to address our initial concerns and allow us to engage in their development process. And that doesn't always happen with developers, so we really appreciate that, and we look forward to that going forward as well. And so I'm really excited about this project, about the possibilities of Baker calling this your home.
And I
have one more comment, if I may,
Sure.
now that everybody's had to speak. I just wanted to draw some comments to, what the downtown is, the DDA is trying to address in our downtown and in its Wistar master plan. But we have heard that our businesses need more daytime foot traffic. And the way that you do that is you grow your daytime businesses. And while we're doing that with the DOT project, this project with Baker College would definitely be an infusion of people into our downtown during the day, and which would help our business community tremendously. So that's one of the main goals that we have for the downtown, and why this project helps us achieve that if it goes forward.
Yeah, so I would just add, this is a really important footprint in our downtown, and you're going to find, as you've heard, that people in this town are passionate about this city and passionate about our downtown. But I think it's an exciting opportunity as well. I think the possibility of bringing young students to town, right in the heart of downtown, activating streets, and as the councilwoman said, during the day, has a lot of potential, as well as offering quality education to our residents who may want to take advantage of that. And I also do appreciate, because I've heard from the council folks that have met with you, and I do believe that this isn't a profit thing for you. So and there's nothing against a developer making a profit on a project, and I'm not saying you should lose money on it, but you're really coming at it from a perspective of what's best for your students, your college, and I believe what's best for this community. And so I look forward to, I'm supportive of us entering into this ENRA agreement, and I look forward to further fleshing out the details, and look forward to what we find out in the next 90 days. So thanks for being here.
I'd like to make a motion.
Yes, please.
I move that the Ferndale City Council approve the exclusive negotiating rights agreement between the City of Ferndale and Baker College as presented by the CED Director and crafted by the City Attorney and City Manager's Office.
Support. Moved by Polika and supported by Martin. Now, any final questions or comments?
This is just last comment. I mean, I'm mindful this is a lot of work in a short amount of time to meet some of these deadlines. So whatever staff and Baker needs from us to help facilitate that, please don't be shy.
Thank you. You guys have been awesome so far. Thank you.
And may make a comment too, that this property has had a lot of inquiries over the last couple of years. And I just wanted to say that the city has not found the right partner to even explore this opportunity. Since council has been behind the scenes saying no. So I think that needs to be taken into consideration, that council is not putting this ENRA forward without deep deliberation, thought, and mindfulness about really truly what is a good partner to build out this space.
Yeah.
So
that's a great point. And one other point I would make, just in case anyone's wondering, we haven't done a lot of talking about parking. We talk a lot about parking in general in this community, and we're about to break ground on a major mixed-use parking project called the DOT. And so just to make people aware, we're keenly aware of the disruption that the DOT is going to cause downtown, and that disruption will obviously have to be a part of our considerations of how this project moves forward. It's hard enough to have one major construction project going on downtown, let alone two. Granted, they're on separate sides of Woodward, so that's very helpful. But just understand that we are very aware that there's going to be a lot of parking congestion and things to mitigate, and that'll have to be obviously part of what we talk about.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Good. Final comments or questions?
Nope.
All right. And I guess I should ask our city attorney. So you had an opportunity to review the NRA and
I did, Your Honor,
yeah.
and assisted in drafting the document for your presentation. It does provide flexibility and control for council on a going forward basis with a time as set forth in the document.
Excellent. Thank you. All right. If there's no further discussion, I'll ask the city clerk to call the roll, please.
Councilmember Piana?
Yes.
Councilmember Leaks May?
Yes.
Councilmember Martin?
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Polika?
Yes.
And Mayor Coulter?
Yes. Thank you. That item is adopted. Thanks, folks. Looking forward to working with you.
Thank you.
The next item of business, item B, is a request to extend the medical marijuana application from 9 to 12 months for 1921 Hilton Road. And Justin, you're going to introduce that item.
Yes. Thank you. So as council is aware, there are 3 medical marijuana provisioning centers that are in the process of moving forward.
Yes.
Pre-application licenses were issued for these applicants to explore opening in Ferndale starting July 1st. Within the city's ordinances, it is a requirement that the applicants must obtain a state-issued license after 9 months.
Yeah.
We put that in the ordinance to let it flow under some folks, no pun intended.
Yep.
Didn't even plan that. But also we weren't really sure how the state process would unfold. There was quite a bit of time when the state was going through regulations and licensing and finally did give cities and communities some guidance going forward. And so we came up with 9 months as a way to really see how this process was going. So all 3 of the applicants are in process. All 3 of them have site plan approvals through the Planning Commission. And all 3 of them actually all have building plans either approved or in the process of being approved, and I believe one of them is already working on their site. So things are moving along. Considering the timeline of things, one applicant, 4D-Mar LLC, their site is 1921B Hilton Road. Their site has a bit more nuance and with new parking lots and demolition of a portion of a building and things like that, that do require a bit more time than some of the other projects. So the applicants did provide a letter to request, which it's council's sole discretion to decide if the applicant can request an additional 3 months for a total of 12 months as part of this process. So the applicants are here to provide some more of that background data if council is interested. But again, it is council's discretion, and to review that, it doesn't go to the planning commission for that review. It comes straight here.
Does the state require additional time, or have, pardon my ignorance, have any of the three gotten state licensing? Yeah, go ahead, if you want to.
I'll let the experts probably speak on that.
Okay. I know that's been a slow process.
Good evening, Paul Weisberger, on behalf of the landlord. I'm authorized to speak on behalf of the actual licensee or to-be licensee, which would be 40 Marn.
Yeah.
And hopefully it's the last time you get to see my ugly mug. The answer to your question is, under the state of Michigan, in order to get a, quote, final license, they make you construct, remember we had this discussion about, they make you construct the entire premises, and they do not allow for a temporary certificate of occupancy. So you have to have a final C of O. So, and I'll get into that in a second, but to the extent we could stone the lot after we demolish the building and try to do it really fast, that's not an option. You can't bond over it, you can't get a temporary C of O. So you have to get a final C of O. Then you have to go on the agenda, and their agendas at the state of Michigan are like molasses. I mean, they're barely moving through this process if you read the papers.
Yeah.
So we have a lot to accomplish in a very short time frame as it is. Without regurgitating the letter, because I know the night is getting long, we did go after, when I say we, I'm again authorized to speak on both.
Yeah.
We went and started negotiating with Mr. Garmo, who owns the property in 1921. He's here in attendance if you want to verify anything I'm going to say. Got entered into a protracted negotiation. Jimmy is quite a negotiator. And on August 30th, we were able to enter into a PA, a purchase agreement. Not too far after that, we did receive site plan approval, 8-0 vote from the Planning Commission. The emphasis for the site, which we were trying to improve, was to bring landscaping as well as bring the appropriate amount of parking that's needed. And that is the nuance that's a little bit different from the other applicants, is we actually have to demolish part of the building. And as part of that, we have to relocate unique metals. So there's a tenant. So that added another mix. So now we had to have a tenant enter into a termination of lease agreement, then find the tenant appropriate building, then have that lease negotiated and signed. We had about 3 balls in the air. Luckily, all of them are coming together. And I'm happy to report that the new tenant is actually moving to 1300 Hilton. So we are not displacing the tenant and pushing him out of the community. He's actually finding one in the community. So I look at it as an improvement to the Hilton corridor. We're bringing the appropriate amount of parking, landscaping, and we're also keeping an industrial tenant in the industrial district. What we're really looking to do, and if there's any questions you guys have, is basically, without getting into great detail, there's quite a lot of moving parts to accomplish this. We think it'll be a great addition to the community. We're looking for you guys to follow staff recommendation to extend. I would say, not to get too down in the dumps and gloomy, if you guys were to deny our request, we'd essentially be denying our site, because we wouldn't have time to go back to Planning Commission, then submit new plans, and then build and construct by March 31st. It would be impossible. So I really hope that you guys would allow us to take a shot at getting this done by July 1st and actually getting on the agenda with the state of Michigan.
Okay.
Thanks.
Okay. Does council have any questions?
I just wanted to ask this gentleman. Paul. Through the chair.
Yes.
So you're asking for a 3-month extension. Can you tell me what's been done already to, what sort of steps have been happened already through?
A lot of paperwork, not a lot of physical change.
Not a lot of physical.
So purchase agreement negotiated to buy the building, because the existing landlord did, we entered in to buy the building so that we could demolish the 2/3 of the north half. Then we had to move that tenant to a new location. He had to renegotiate, he had to find a lease somewhere within the community. He did. We had to go to Planning Commission to get site plan approval, which we did do and we received. We did submit and do our mechanical, plumbing, and engineering and electrical drawings. Those were submitted December 26th. I believe Safe Built just told us today that they were reviewing those drawings. They had a project in front of us, so those are being reviewed. So if you follow the chronological steps, about every month and a half, we've entered into the purchase agreement, submitted for site plan, we received site plan, submitted for building permit plans, got a lease to move the current tenant into 1300 Hilton. So I can tell you, this is not a ruse. We're not trying to do all this to just stall out. We are very excited about the opportunity to open. In fact, we would, in a perfect world, we'd be the first to open. So we are moving as fast as we can to get this thing open. But between now and June 30th, you should see quite a lot of activity, including a brand new parking lot out there.
I guess that begs the question, is 3 months enough?
It is, yeah.
Yeah.
With the right contractors, and motivated contractors, we'll get it done.
Okay.
My background is in commercial real estate, and we've constructed full shopping centers in 5 months if you spend your life on the phone yelling at people.
Right. All right. Other comments or questions?
I move that Ferndale City Council approve M4DMAR LLC's request to extend the conditional permit for medical marijuana provisioning center at 1921B Hilton Road, expires June 30th, 2019.
Support.
Moved by Piana, supported by Polika. Now, any last questions or comments?
I think it's very difficult as a business navigating these new laws and process, and
Yep.
you guys have been here with the long haul, so go forth and try to be successful with the state.
Indeed. All right. Marty, would you call the roll, please?
Councilmember Leaks May?
Yes.
Councilmember Martin?
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Polika?
Yes.
Councilmember Piana?
Yes.
And Mayor Coulter?
Yes, thank you. That item is adopted.
Thank you.
Gentlemen. Next item of business is the consideration of the Woodward Heights resurfacing plan and budget. And that's also Justin. He's getting overtime pay tonight.
Yes, indeed. So Woodward Heights is one of two major road resurfacing projects that we have on the agenda tonight and just going on in the city this year. So Woodward Heights between Bermuda and Pilgrim Avenue, slated for resurfacing. This has been on the city major roads project list for quite some time. Federal funds were eligible for the project, and so we were awarded for that. Staff also applied for a Transportation Alternatives Program grant through MDOT and SEMCOG in 2017, bringing that total amount of federal awards or funds awarded for the project to up to $700,000 between the state program and the federal funds. So we were excited to move forward with that portion and find out that news. So as with every road project, we did meet with the internal stakeholders of DPW and police and fire just to plan the street to include some of the complete streets principles that you've seen on recent projects, but also for future maintenance. We also held 2 public meetings, community meetings, to inform the community about the project. In mid-December, had some attendance from the neighborhood there, some businesses, and then also we worked with Hazel Park Schools because Webb Elementary is nearby, and Ferndale Schools because the Early Childhood Center is just up the street on Burdette. So incorporating all that feedback into the project was very important, and that is what the plan reflects for you today. Pleasant Ridge and Hazel Park also border the ends of this project, and so they are kicking in some funding for their portions of the project as well, which will add some bike lanes onto Hazel Park's portion and improve a crosswalk in Pleasant Ridge's portion. So we're excited to have them partner. Staff will be bringing back a interlocal agreement for each of those communities, as well as a potential MDOT funding agreement, which is pretty standard, or which is standard for federally funded projects like that. I won't go into a ton of details about the plan, but essentially the recommended plan includes new asphalt, curb and gutter, and striping, but also make some upgrades that are outlined in the Ferndale Moves transportation plan. So there is some bike lanes there that were restriped or striped on the road a few years ago as part of the neighborhood bike route grant that we were awarded. Those will be upgraded to a mixture of conventional bike lanes as well as protected bike lanes with some of the delineators that you've seen on some other projects, and some concrete to add some additional protection. We had some of that on Livernois. Also improving a lot of the pedestrian experience on this street, so including some new crosswalks that weren't there previously. So Bermuda, Gainsborough, Horton, Paxton, Wolcott, Burdette, and Pilgrim will all be either added or improved. We're bringing up the ramps to crosswalks into ADA compliance, which we do on all new projects. But the TAP grant also allowed extra funding to add a new sidewalk that is along the south side of the, sort of the industrial core near the railroad tracks, over near Urban Rest Brewing and Farmfield Table and some of those businesses there. So we're excited to better connect pedestrians throughout the district. We also got some funding for some new trees. So if you've been over there, if you took a look at the city's tree canopy study, there's not a ton of trees right now. This will be a big upgrade to that project, so, or to that street. Project is slated to start early May, projected to be complete in mid-November. There are detour plans that we've been sharing with businesses nearby, but essentially the road will be, always have at least one-way traffic maintained on the entire project. So there'll be a lot of signage and communication. We started that communication with businesses as well. That was one of the main very valid questions and discussion points at the community meeting. So staff also created a a project website to keep the community updated about the project, and we have an email list. And actually at the website, if you go to ferndalemoves.com, there's recent projects button, and there's specifically a page for Woodward Heights where people can sign up for email updates, which we'll push out, which we have done in the past. I included the budget breakdown in the staff memo. The total project is $2.9 million, and then the total project specifically to Ferndale is about $2.2 million. That's where those federal funds and TAP grant funding definitely helps with the overall project cost. But staff's here to answer any questions. Staff recommends this approval. Definitely checks a lot of, aligns with the strategic plan, master plan, Ferndale Moves plan. And we're really excited to have the partners that for everyone from the schools to Hazel Park and Pleasant Ridge and community around really contributed to this this plan.
Great. Is there anyone from the public that would like to comment on this plan? All right, comments or questions from staff, from council.
Just one. Can you talk a little bit about any retrospective lessons learned from the Livernois Street construction project that will be applied here to support the businesses?
Yeah, do I have a strike in the middle of it?
Well, yes, minus the strike of construction workers across the state.
Yes, we would definitely like to avoid that.
I've heard about already, the concern that it might happen again.
A lot of lessons learned from Livernois, certainly. Getting the information out to the businesses and community earlier was probably, the number one lesson learned. Thankfully, we're not removing any on-street parking as part of it, because there really isn't any, so that makes this a little bit less complicated. But getting the message out early was really the primary key factor, I think, when we were putting this plan together. Most of the businesses will have access. If they are in that core industrial district, they do have access from Drayton, they do have access from Burdett, so it's not it's not the same as Livernois, I would say, but we did work with a couple of business owners, one that does not have a secondary driveway. They were able to, they don't have a secondary access, but they do have other driveways, and found an additional area where it should help. It won't be easy, but it certainly will mitigate some of the issues that we had done that could be there with only having one access.
Other comments or questions?
I'm excited about this project because I think that it's been a kind of a long time coming. It's will make it safer. I don't know if I know you bike a lot. It's just will make it a little safer over there to kind of ride and for people to feel safe. I know I felt much safer with my daughter and my other children riding bikes when we surfaced Pinecrest. So
great.
Yeah.
I'd like to move that Ferndale City Council approve the resurfacing plans for Woodward Heights and approves the resolution accepting the 2019 Transportation Alternative Programs TAP grant.
Support.
I apologize.
All right, final comments or questions?
I just have one final comment. Over the last couple of years, I've received a number of concerns and complaints from residents about the inability to walk on the south side of Woodward Heights. From the tracks all the way to, what is that? Not Horton, Bermuda.
Bermuda.
Bermuda, yeah. And so I'm glad this is finally addressing it. And overall, I'm glad that when we're looking at redoing streets like this, that we're looking from the sidewalks to the center and not just looking at the street as one item of transportation.
Absolutely. All right. Final comments or questions? Marnie, would you call the roll, please?
Councilmember Merton,
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Polika,
Yes.
Councilmember Piana,
Yes.
Councilmember Leaks May,
Yes.
and Mayor Coulter.
Yes, thank you. That item is adopted. Moving on now to a similar one, the consideration of the Pinecrest from 8 to 9 Mile Road resurfacing plan and budget.
Thank you. So very, very similar process, another project that was applied for federal funding quite a while ago. Pretty typical for major roads like Livernois and Woodward Heights and Pinecrest, so finally eligible again this year. And so really the same process, internal stakeholders as well as the community meetings we held in mid-December as well. And then, of course, obviously Ferndale Middle School and High School are located here. So met with them very early to just talk through potential routing, detours. And I think the most important point from the school's perspective is, when is this going to be completed? So between April and Labor Day is when the majority of this work will be complete. After Labor Day, it's really just punch list items like grass restoration, some signs and things like that. But the goal is before Labor Day.
When does it start?
Mid-April as well. So this plan really does align with north of West 9 Mile on Pinecrest. So modifies the bike lane design to actually have a standard bike lane. There will be some mixture of protected bike lanes and conventional lanes here. So definitely getting some continuity between two of the school, or really a school corridor, I would say. There will also be a new traffic signal installed at West Marshall, a big improvement from what's there now. It was very important in talking with the schools and with the police department that a center turn lane remain in front of the school. So everywhere else, or not everywhere else, but the majority of the street will be 2-lane with the bike lanes. But the center turn lane will be near the school. So essentially around Marshall down to Northway, just purely because of school pickup and drop off. So that will remain.
So to clarify though, so the center lane is going to disappear north of the school?
Correct.
And what happens to the bike lanes there?
So the bike lane will convert from a protected bike lane to a conventional bike lane. Yes.
Gotcha.
Yep. So.
Yep. Okay.
Other than that, similar to Woodward Heights, we do have a project webpage. Again, ferndalemoves.com. If you go to recent projects, there is a specific page there. We have an email list started with folks that did attend the meeting. We're happy to send out mailings if there are requests for that as well. A couple of people did request that at the meeting, which we're happy to do. And we also have an email list. So trying to keep people informed throughout the process. And that was really the key thing with the schools. So continuing communication with them and making sure that they are able to blast all this information out to their staff and students and families.
I have a couple of emails to add to that list for you if you see me after or whatever.
I do as well, and if I can add to that, I've gotten a lot of feedback on this project, but on Pinecrest too, we need another public hearing. For whatever reason, a lot of people didn't get that notice, I'm hearing. So we need not public hearing, but a public comment information session. There's been a number of people that have approached me that didn't see that and would have liked to have attended.
Okay.
And then I'm also already getting pushed back on I call them the spokes, but the tubular markers and the lack of middle lane there.
Delineators, I believe.
Yeah, because so many of those driveways on Pinecrest come out and to go the opposite direction of where your house sits requires to back into a middle lane and forward. And so that's a potential conflict area that people are going to have to get used to. Other than that, thank God, this stretch of road's in horrible shape.
Yep.
My other question was so the light at West Marshall, maybe a year ago, 2 years ago now, we removed the Leroy Pinecrest light. And have we done a study on that West Marshall light to know that we need that? Is that because of the school that we need that? It just seems, I know it's awkward now and we can improve upon that, but we're convinced that light's necessary.
The West Marshall light is purely for the school. I'd have to go back and look at the traffic signal study that we did, but it is because of the school.
Okay.
Yeah, I would totally put it in, since we are removing some bike lanes that would be pedestrian and focused for safety of children. We're removing them. Removing a crosswalk light would decrease the safety for any children who walk to school.
I just want the facts around it. I'm not saying we should remove it. I'm just wondering what.
The light is very long. I would
It
look
is.
at the duration of the light. Right? So that maybe it honors pedestrians in some way that benefits them, so.
And I should have mentioned, so the new traffic signal will have push button actuation for pedestrians, and there is actuation in the street for cars to pull up that essentially signal the light to go to the next cycle.
Is that where you have to kind of jiggle your car to make sure you hit the trigger so the light turns at 2 a.m. and?
Yeah.
Yep. Okay.
That's the one.
I know that move.
So I would be remiss if I didn't invite Councilman Martin to make the motion, because you've only mentioned this project for
I've mentioned it for
years.
I have some questions first.
Oh, we can have a motion first. Oh, you have questions of clarification? Okay,
Yes.
sorry, all right,
Okay.
just an invitation.
But he's welcome to make it after my question. So I praised you for the last project and looking from sidewalk to sidewalk, and so on this project, I'm wondering why we are not doing anything about the lack of sidewalk from the high school to 8 Mile on the west side. Is that because we're waiting for a project to come in to pay for it?
That would be something that we would request as part of a future development there at that site, yes.
Okay.
We did talk a little bit directly in front of the schools about something long-term that we would look at together, but we did not include it as part of this project.
It not only is the undeveloped project, but in front of the entire school parking lot, there's no sidewalk there. And I'm wondering if that warrants, at some point where the sidewalk ends, if that warrants a crosswalk or a signaled, hand-signaled crosswalk. Just because what you do at the end of the sidewalk. Gotta go somewhere.
To follow up with Councilman Polika, we've been asking the school district for years to take a look at safe routes to schools, and that would help implement something like that if they came up with that policy. I know we have more kids being dropped off to schools than children walking to school because of schools of choice. But when you design an environment around a school for cars, what happens is that every child getting out of car is a pedestrian. And so maybe the school can help focus on completing the sidewalk and be an advocate, and we can ask them.
Because when I went to school, I had to walk a mile uphill both ways.
I did it on dirt roads.
Oh, yeah, you did, didn't you?
When you went to school, it was a single schoolhouse, though. I don't think you can compare.
Yep.
All right. Was that it?
Yes,
Okay.
yeah.
Motion would be on
I'd
the
like to move that Ferndale City Council approve the resurfacing plans for Pinecrest between 8 Mile and 9 Mile.
Support.
Moved by Martin, supported by Polika. Now, final questions or comments on this item?
Just one comment from me. What we could do tonight is, if this does get approved, we could get the cost for a sidewalk in front of the school for council to consider. And if it is something that pleases council, then we could add that to the project.
I'm for that. I'd like to have more discussion about who's paying for that, though.
Yeah, I'd like to have more discussion with the school.
Yeah.
To mimic Councilwoman Piana's comments about involving them in that whole project, so.
Understood.
Yeah.
All right, Marty, would you call the roll, please?
Mayor Pro Tem Polika?
Yes.
Councilmember Piana?
Yes.
Councilmember Leaks May?
Yes.
Councilmember Martin?
Emphatically, yes.
And Mayor Colt?
Yes, thank you, that item's adopted. Thanks, Joseph. Thank you. All right, that concludes our regular agenda. So now, next item of business, the last item of business is called to council. Anyone? Oh, there's Captain Emmy. Anything else for the good of the community from the police department this evening? All right.
Keep up the good work.
Yep, thank you. Chief Pesha, and anything from the fire department? Nothing. Interim chief, I should say. DPW, Dan, anything for the good of the community this evening? Nothing. How about recreation? Oh, Rec always has good stuff going on. Awesome.
Good evening.
Good evening.
So I only have two quick items. The first one is we are having our skate park community design meeting on January 24th from 7 to 8:30. It will be at Incubizo, which is located at 1938 Burdette. And that meeting is with Evergreen Parks. It'll be a planning thing where we're discussing some design aspects of the skate park. If anyone would like to attend, and then
I'm sorry, before you move on, AM or PM, 8:30 to 8 to 9:30 AM or PM?
PM.
Okay, good, thank you.
And another clarification. This is irregardless of which park it goes into.
This is not, no, that hasn't been discussed yet. This
is design.
Yes.
Yeah.
And then we have opened up registration for our Daddy-Daughter Dance, one of our biggest events that we put on annually. It'll be held at Ferndale High School on February 9th from 6 to 8 p.m. Registration, as I said, is open already. It's $10 per person. It'll raise up to $15 per person on February 2nd. And those spots are really going fast. We just opened up registration last week, and there's already 50 people signed up for it as of me saying this.
That's awesome.
Yep. So if you want to register, you can find the information online at our registration site, or you can call the Kulik Center at 248-544-6767. Cool.
Excellent. Anyone have any questions for Emmanuel? Thank you, sir. Appreciate it. Jordan, anything else from community and economic development?
Nothing else this evening.
All right. Kara, how about communications and community engagement? Okay. Dan, anything from HR this evening? All right. Joe, anything from the acting city manager, interim city manager? No. Who are you? Assistant city manager. Acting, what are you today? You've been all those things.
From the royal we. I have a pretty significant update. So this is the last opportunity I'll have to inform the public and council. Just a reminder that our construction of the mixed-use downtown parking development, known as the DOT or development on Troy, is scheduled to begin officially on January 28th when the site is fenced. You're going to see this over the course of those couple days, a construction site being put up. You're going to see some equipment moved in, an office moved in, and we'll be ready to actually have a breaking ground ceremony scheduled between 12 p.m. and 3 p.m. on the project site on Saturday, February 2nd. Yes. And then once we go through the ceremony, really our last opportunity to get great information out to people, you can expect the actual construction and excavation begin in short course the following Monday on the 4th. So. I would also like to take this opportunity to really express my appreciation for the partnership the DDA has shown the last couple months. We have a lot of final due diligence in terms of financial and legal hurdles that we have to get to in order to get to the conclusion that we'll be bringing kind of everything up on January 28th at the next council meeting. So there's going to be a number of agreements, an authorization to issue bonds, and it was really a great partnership, and they've worked really well with us over the past couple of weeks. I want to take this opportunity to thank them and their executive committee.
Thank you. Thank you. Speaking of parking, I see our friend at Republic Parking is here, and he has something for us this evening. Good evening, sir.
One little thing that Councilman Martin, your favorite of Free Parking Day, coming up next Monday in honor of Martin Luther King Day.
Yep. Great.
That's really it.
Okay. Thank you.
Free parking next Monday. Excellent.
There will be signs.
Marty, anything from the clerk's office?
Nothing tonight, thank you.
Okay. April, anything from the city manager's office?
Couple things.
Yeah.
First and foremost, on Monday, January 21st, City Hall will be closed in observance of MLK Day. And for those that have not heard, I am leaving my position here at the City of Ferndale effective February 28th. I'll be working with City Council to fill my position. I'm leaving to take a position with the University of Detroit. So I will miss everybody here, but we'll have plenty of opportunity for tears and sadness later. But I will be working with City Council to fill my position in an interim basis. But we do have some time to figure that out. My last day won't be until February 28th. So just wanted to, for those that haven't heard, make that formal announcement.
Yeah. Do we need to talk about the search firm vetting, or do we have time? Should we do that this evening?
If you want to, yeah.
Okay, because it's related to that. So I would like to ask council's permission and authority to, there's several search firms that we have, that staff has identified that we could use. We need to vet those, and so it shouldn't be a major thing, but I think a couple of folks on council, just to sort of talk to those search firms and decide who we would recommend to council. And I would like to propose that Councilwoman Leaks May and myself be that vetting group, if that's okay with council.
Yep.
Support? Sure, that's fine.
All right, so supported, we'll do it as a vote. So motion by Councilman Polika and supported by Councilman Martin. Any discussion? Not for any particular reason, other than we're both willing and available, and you have the final vote anyway. So thank you. Yeah, but just to let the public know, so we'll begin that process. We'll start those interviews. That starts the process of finding a replacement. And that will probably, it will definitely take longer than the period that April is here, but we'll work through that. But this begins the process, the very sad and difficult process of trying to replace our city manager.
Thank you.
So thank you.
But the goal would be to bring the search firm for approval on January 28th and
Yes.
determine who might be interim in my absence. And of course, I'll help in any way possible, even upon my departure. But we can keep that moving along.
What I just heard is after the 28th of February, you're going to keep working here.
Yes, sure, I can do that.
Excellent.
Nights and weekends.
I move that she does that, yes. So Marnie, we had a motion and support. Would you call the roll, please?
Councilmember Piana?
Yes.
Councilmember Leaks May?
Did I vote for myself?
Yeah.
Yes, okay.
Councilmember Martin?
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Polika?
Yes.
And Mayor Coulter?
Yes, thank you. So we will report back to you at the next meeting. Thanks. All right, thanks. Dan, anything?
Thank you, Mayor. Nothing tonight.
All right, Councilman Martin.
Couple things. One, April, I got a million things to say to you, but I guess we're going to hold that for a bit. Is Barron still here?
Who,
No,
Barry?
Barron. If you could
Oh,
pass
Barron.
on to Barron. I got just tremendously positive reviews from the Narcon training he did. Is that, yeah, so the people that were there really were appreciative. One in particular sought me out to give me that feedback. So please pass that on. He did just a wonderful job. So, and whoever else was there to help him. And then lastly, before anybody sends me an email, I did not stand at the Pledge of Allegiance due to a political protest. I've recently had some mobility issues, and the reason I bring that up is, and I've already started to address this with staff, is it's really brought to light for me. My mobility issues are nothing compared to what most people who have them are going through. But even what I've gone through in the last couple of weeks and will for the next 4 to 6 weeks, has really brought some things to light. I think accessibility, I've always thought we've tackled pretty well around here. And I think we have, but I think there are opportunities. And so as I mentioned to the DDA director earlier, and for the next, going forward, I've asked staff that we start to pay attention to some things, because there are some things that we've got gaps on and have to start paying attention to again. And, firsthand, nothing beats firsthand experience to find those things. And so you'll be hearing more about that from me, and just fair warning to staff, I'll be beating a drum there for a while, so thanks.
That's it. Councilwoman Leaks May.
Nothing tonight.
All right. Mayor Pro Tem Polika.
A couple things. One, just before the holidays, I had the opportunity to do a ride around with one of our police officers, and which is always a great opportunity for us to see what's happening in the community and what our officers are having to go through. And one of the things that was very evident was rideshare activities on our streets, Uber, Lyft, stopping,
Drop-off pickup?
drop-off pickup, double parking or double standing, however you want to put that, and blocking traffic. And it's getting worse, and I don't see it getting better. So I think I'd encourage us to look at treating these ride-share programs or services much like we do bus stops. I think we're going to have to dedicate places for people to drop off and pick up passengers. I think it's a safety issue as well for the pedestrians, for passengers. So that's something I'd like us to look into moving forward. And the second thing is, now that the holidays are over, I am going to be starting my What's on Your Mind About Ferndale, my monthly meeting, public meeting, where I invite the public to just come, meet with me, talk about issues that are on your mind. A lot of people don't have the opportunity to come on a Monday evening to speak to council, so this is an opportunity to meet with a council member, to share with your concerns. It's generally I hold them in a public place. This time I'm going to hold it at Emory, which is right on the corner of Woodward and East Troy, and that is Wednesday the 30th, January 30th at 4 p.m. It's very casual. And like I said, look forward to seeing you. So that's it.
Excellent. Thank you. Councilwoman Piana.
Yeah, I will be heading to Washington, D.C. with the Michigan Municipal League and National League of Cities for Lobby Day on February 6th and 7th. I've asked staff already to help influence or any policies that they would like me to champion with our elected officials representing us in D.C. Again, this is a one-year opportunity for me to champion issues statewide in my role as the Michigan Municipal League Board President, which I take very seriously, and do advocate quite frequently with our legislators. So I've been paying attention to what has happened during lame duck. More bills got passed during lame duck than they did during regular session, which is completely opposite of how I think democracy is supposed to function. But that's what it is, and I will be working with MML closely this year on policies that relate to municipalities. And I really look forward to working with our new Senator, Jeremy Moss, and our newly re-elected state rep on these issues that are relevant to Ferndale and communities like ours across the state. And then I wanted to say, tonight starts my 10th year of public service to the city of Ferndale. And I wanted to say how honored I am that I'm able to continue my role as a community leader, and how honored I am that our voters have elected me 3 times. And just wanted to express how seriously I take this role, and how awesome it is to work with such a dedicated council and city staff who make being a council member a real joy, even during the difficult, hard decisions that we've made. When I got onto council, some of my first decisions were downsizing our staff and laying off police and fire. I gained 15 pounds my first year from stress eating. I call it the council 15. And, you know, for the first 6 or 7 years, it was all about surviving the lack of growth. And how do you grow your community when nothing was really growing? And our focus has been to make sure businesses thrive through that time and what the city could do. And then just to share, when I got into council, it was all about breaking the silos down between departments and focusing on teamwork. And April, our city manager, has been instrumental in creating this amazing organizational culture that I'm proud to be of, and I hope our staff are too. And it's going to be a real sad last day when April moves on. But I do know that the foundation and the framework in which she has set up is really going to make our community successful going forward, no matter who is at the helm of the city manager's position. And this will be my 3rd city manager in the 10 years that I've been on council. So I look forward to finding the best fit for Ferndale, and the one that will carry our beloved organizational culture forward, so that everybody is happy. So here's to year 10.
Indeed. Happy anniversary.
Thank you.
And the one item I'd like to discuss this evening, and I'm not exactly sure how to do this, so Dan Christ, I might have to have you help with some verbiage, but I'm concerned about the people that may live in Ferndale or visit Ferndale that have been affected by the federal shutdown, and how they're coping. And I don't know how many federal employees we have in Ferndale. I assume there's some. I don't know. I know there must be visitors, but I'm very concerned about the plight of these federal workers who have really been asked to carry, I think, an unfair burden. And it got me to thinking about what we could do as a city, at least in the short term, to perhaps mitigate whatever impacts that may have. Now, I've just been brainstorming things like if you were a resident, we could probably delay a water bill or a tax bill. If you were a visitor, maybe parking could be waived. So here's the dilemma I have, is that I'm open to other suggestions of what we might be able to do. I think those suggestions have to be vetted through staff, but I'd rather not wait 2 weeks to bring it back to here. So I don't know if there's language that we could adopt that allows staff, with our input, maybe it's not policy, so that's why I'm wondering if there's a way to do this so that it's not policy, so that it's staff procedures, that they could quickly identify ways that may mitigate that impact. And maybe there's not, Dan, but
I think you're absolutely,
yeah.
I'm sorry to interject right here, but you're absolutely right. It's an administrative procedure, and as a policy message, we can direct staff, the city manager, to come up with administrative procedures recognizing and providing some alleviation to federal employees, and that gives her the levity to do it and do it quickly, I think, right?
Yes, I believe we actually might have a resolution on the books right now that allows me to waive fees as necessary.
Well, I
So you
think
could clarify
the
that.
concept, through the chair, Mayor, the concept of referring the matter to the city manager to implement immediately, subject to providing immediate communication back to council collectively, could be done. The specifics of what might be out there from the standpoint of your goals, what you're seeking to achieve, I think it's hard to respond on the spot.
Okay.
But should council wish to provide that clarity to the city manager and that authority this evening, and as I said, bring back a communication for council to affirm that at the next council meeting, I think is something that council could consider.
So I apologize for not giving you advance notice of that, but if you could help with some language around that, maybe we could, while you're doing that, just have some, if anyone has thoughts or ideas about potential ways that we could do those are the ones that struck me.
Yeah, I think my feedback would be let's waive due dates for water and taxes until the shutdown's concluded. Parking seems to me a difficult thing to prove. If you come in, I don't know how you'd monitor that unless they presented a ticket and proof of federal employment, and then we would waive the ticket.
Yeah. Is there a way, Joe, that they could come to City Hall and present some sort of identification that would then give them a
pass or something?
I don't know. Just thinking out loud here, but
Working through Dan's legal input.
yeah, assuming.
Yeah, I think what we could do is the software enables the creation of a permit that could be a federal employment permit, and you could offer that at some kind of discounted rate. That's off the top of my head. That's what I'm thinking.
I would think,
The question would be communicating
overthink
it.
Pardon? Don't overthink it. Just put a pass in your rearview mirror and don't give the guy a ticket if you see it.
Communicate it, and then of course, to your point, how to authenticate
Yeah, because they're not looking at windshields anymore, so they would not necessarily see something hanging on the.
But that's an idea that, for your point, we could certainly further that discussion.
Okay.
Perhaps even businesses will jump in and help out.
That's what I'm hoping, right? I've reached out to the DDA and put this idea in their head as well, just in case business owners wanted to be supportive as well on their own. We can't, obviously, nor should we force them to do that, but.
And if I may interject in your share, we're the land of the nonprofit, Ferndale is. And I'm wondering if there's a way for those nonprofits to communicate with the city what programs they're currently offering federal, because this is short-term, so it's going to be very hard for these services to be identified in the general public. So I don't, I'm just, churches that are opening up their food pantries and clothing closets, et cetera.
No, that's a good idea. We could reach out, certainly reach out to them.
Or have them reach out to us to create a list.
Tentative motion.
Okay.
Ready for it?
Yeah, would you mind reading?
No, and I, the motion to direct the city manager to investigate and implement processes to assist federal furloughed workers affected by federal government shutdown with, I can't read, it's just, with correspondence to council. With correspondence to council.
Yes. Is there support? Support. So moved by Martin, supported by Lakes May. So April, do you feel like you have enough direction?
I do. We'll try to come up with some kind of idea by the end of tomorrow.
I was going to say, I know your plates are full, but this time is of the essence on something like this. So thank you very much, staff, for considering this. But it's an unusual situation for them, and they've now gone a payless payday.
Thanks to you, Mayor, for thinking of this. This is a great idea.
Well, I think it's something when a local government is more compassionate than our federal government.
Amen.
All right. Any last comments or questions before I ask Marty to call the roll? Marty, would you call the roll, please?
Councilmember Lakes May?
Yes.
Councilmember Martin?
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Polifka?
Yes.
Councilmember Piana?
Yes.
And Mayor Coulter?
Yes, thank you. That item is adopted. Thank you, Council, for entertaining that. And with that, our meeting is adjourned.